Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Villa Park podcast. And I know what you're all thinking. I don't look or sound like Rich Sutherland, who's the host of this channel normally, but that's because he's away now on holidays with his family, a well-deserved break for him. And clearly, he's enjoying himself in a bit of sun, while some of us are back here now with the grand stretch in the evening gone. It's fairly dark and starting to get a little bit chilly in the evening, so we're going to have to crack on without him. But plenty still to talk about. We have the PSR issues, posting stuff with the stadium on the increase, and people coming off the wage bill. And so that'll be the talk for today. George, thanks for coming on. How are you feeling, mate?
Hello, mate. Yeah, I'm all good. Cheers. Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, football's back. Don't feel quite ready for it personally yet, but you know the season's now relentless, and we're going to be completely consumed now till next summer, aren't we?
Absolutely. And just before we crack on, please hit the subscribe button and the like button tonight. We are now after hitting that 5,900 mark, which we will get that fixed. But we're on the road to 6K, now potentially 10K. Please hit the button, spread the good word for the channel. And if you want to become a member, you just click the button on top of the description. It's $1.99 a month. That's less than a pint of Guinness, which Aston Villa are now a part of. So get yourself involved. Why not? Right. So, George, first thing first, and I kind of do want to get this out the way. Morgan Rogers is now officially the young player of the year in the Premier League for 2025. Incredible achievement, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well done, Morgan Rogers. He's thoroughly deserved that. You know, over the last, ever since we bought him, really, he's been a very massive success story, really, hasn't he? And I'd love to know how much he's worth now in this current market for the small outlay we laid on him. But yeah, brilliant. It's going from strength to strength, and I just hope he can carry on that form and have another great season, and obviously keep all the vultures at bay when they inevitably try and nick him off us.
Well, that's it. Like I think he's going to be £100 million plus player now, obviously, for winning this award for the forms he's after putting in last season. And of course, we were told that we had our pants down in an £8 million deal for him. Now, reminder, £8 million is what we paid, and we had our pants down. Now, look, I don't think we have our pants down anymore. I think Middlesbrough are absolutely sick to their stomach after what they're seeing. So, look, it's all good and well. Absolutely fantastic for him. I'm delighted for him. My only thing now is that he needs to play more centrally if he wants to progress on. I just think when he's on the right-hand side, you know, it's not his role, George, is it? Like he's having to work up and down the pitch. He's doing a different type of role where when he's playing centrally or left, he's got more freedom, hasn't he?
Yeah. Don't like him on the right at all, mate. Same as you. Left or central. I actually prefer him on the left. I mean, I know it didn't quite work out. The game just gone, but no one was really at it, was they? Only thing with central, he is obviously when he's good. But I just find in them central areas, it's too crowded, and he loses the ball a lot more centrally than he seems to have a little bit more freedom on the left and a bit more space to operate. But yeah, if he's going to be a number 10, then you know Unai knows better than what I do, doesn't he? So either or, mate. I just hope he carries on playing well, and and we keep doing well.
Yeah, and speaking of players doing well, Bizarre had a really good performance there the weekend. Few good saves, very commanding in his box, showed plenty of experience, something that, you know, when we had Robin Olsen in goals, a name that you really don't like, but unfortunately we are going to say it, that you really don't like. And he kept a really good clean sheet, very commanding of his defenders, which is why I thought we were defensively solid against the Newcastle team, albeit I know they were all over us. But we held them at bay. And I know, again, they didn't have Alexander Isak. But you can only play with what's in front of you. And I thought the boys dealt well against Newcastle, clearly because of Bizot's presence, and he got man of the match for his performance.
Yeah, very encouraging debut. I was really pleased for him, actually. And he didn't look out of place there like in the number 1 shirt, did he? He had a really good game, couple of one-on-ones, and he stood up and he was big and strong. You know, first game in the Premier League can be a bit daunting, and you know, playing a good club like Newcastle, obviously lucky as you said that there was no Isak on the day, but we were kept very busy, especially in that first half, and he did well. And you know, and that was probably the biggest plus. Him along with Kamara's second half performance at centre back, they for us in what was a bit of a drab encounter, but you know, 10 men, we didn't lose the game, did we? So it's not too bad, really.
Yeah, and I do see in the comments a lot of people are talking about Nicholas Jackson, and I promise we will get to that soon enough. But right now, we are going to talk about just purely Aston Villa in the moment right now. But yeah, George, I fully agree with what you're saying. It was a great debut, very pleasing. Looked really well. And one thing I was actually really impressed with was his ball distribution. He was actually surprisingly good at it for what we expect out of our goalkeeper, Emi Martinez, being one of the best at it right now. And I thought he done really well. So I think Emi Martinez might have a good bit of stiff competition. This is something that obviously Villa fans have been crying out for, a good number 2 to maybe challenge Martinez to be better. It gives you that depth and quality that you know that if Martinez, like he was suspended there the weekend, or he gets an injury, you know someone's going to come in and you don't lose that bit of quality in between sticks.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, for the last couple of years, the man we don't like to mention, anytime he came in, really, we might as well just gone -3 like every game, because that's what he was conceding, 3 to 4 goals a game, and the drop-off was alarming. You know, I've sort of nothing personally against Robin Olsen, but I just don't think he was ever really at the level that we needed for a number 2, especially when Martinez, every season, he does tend to miss 4 or 5 games, doesn't he? And I found that has really cost us in the spell where Olsen's been with us. Now, hopefully, Bizzo, you know, it's obviously only 1 game for him, but it was very encouraging. And yeah, it makes us, I think, like, say in another few games, Martinez pulls up. I think now the fans will like be a bit more confident that we've got a better number 2 to sort of come in, and you know, and the drop off won't be what it was.
No, absolutely. Like we've seen in numerous positions that, you know, the drop off in a number 2 would have affected the flow of the team. But goalkeeper obviously being the main one where the flow was so disrupted in terms of, you know, probably the defenders didn't have confidence in them that any time a team was through, it was, here we go, here's the goal. We're going to be on the back foot, constantly on the back foot after back foot after back foot. And when Alanga was through the first goal, I was just kind of hoping that Bizzo, please either make a big save or Alanga just absolutely fluffed his lines and blazes it miles over or miles wide, whatever it is, lose your footing. But clearly he made a big save, some other good saves after that. So it was really encouraging to see. And thankfully, you know, it was just good to see that we kept the clean sheet, because we weren't particularly great on the day. But the only positive I can kind of take from it is that we're now 19 Premier League games unbeaten, which is a new record for us, George.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I was thinking about that a lot in that second half. I was thinking, you know, I really just don't want to lose that run, that unbeaten home record, because that's, you know, this is the best home form I've seen in the whole time I've supported Villa, all 30 years of it, you know, and it's quite a long time. I think that's a calendar year now, unbeaten in the league at home. So you want to keep that going. It's, you know, a very impressive record, and who knows where it might end. And yeah, you know, in years gone by, last couple of years, we going down to 10, you know, especially under Dean Smith, you know, we would very rarely been able to hold out. We'd inevitably go on and lose the game. But it just shows you now the team we've got and the quality and resilience, more importantly, the resilience we've got, that we didn't go under. And, you know, I actually think, as well as Newcastle played first half, I thought if Conor hadn't have gone, I think we could have won that second half myself. You know, I don't think we were brilliant by any means, but we were starting to show a bit more, and we were starting to get at them and had a couple of chances. And it was just a shame that we got caught on that counter, and Conor had to do what he did.
Well, look, that's it, and you have to respect Conor for it. It was something that you just had to do, and every defender in the Premier League does it. It's not just a case of, oh, why did he do it? You know, every single defender has to do it. You know, it's one of them. You take the red card. I know we tried to play it off, but I barely touched him, probably just for theatrics. But it was a clear as day red card. As soon as I seen it, I was like, yeah, he's gone here. But he had to do it. Gordon threw on goal. Maybe I probably would have had a bit of confidence in Bizot to save it, but in saying that, you're not going to take that chance if you're a defender. Just take the red card for where it is, and you probably potentially save your team a point, which is exactly what Conor done. and I 100% respect him for it.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I would, well, I'm not saying I would disagree, but I just wonder whether the time that Gordon would have had to shape to shoot, I just wonder whether Konza might have made up that ground on him. But to be fair, he's quite rapid, Gordon, isn't he? And I guess you just don't take the chance in that position. And, he's done what most defenders would have done in that situation. So I don't think we can really criticise Konza too much. It's only a 1-game ban, isn't it? And it wasn't too much harm done in the end. We still got a point. So I think everyone just moves on.
Yeah, exactly. And now speaking of obviously moving on and probably staying on topic a bit with Villa Park, I had seen on The Athletic, according to Jacob Tanswell, of course, is the whole talks of the North Stand. And the plan for Aston Villa is to increase the capacity to at least 52,500 seater stadium by the time of Euro 2028, which is going to be hosted with England, Scotland, Wales and Ireland, which obviously is going to be a good Euros, obviously plenty of income, but at the same time, for the capacity of Villa Park it is right now, it's probably not going to be suitable and it would need an upgrade. And this is what the inside of Villa Park will look like for those who may have not seen it yet, if you're living under a rock, but clearly here it is now. That it looks a bit more modern, looks brand new, Adidas logo on it. I mean, what's not to love about it? And then just at the back of it, here it is. Aston Villa shining through. Lights absolutely look fantastic. The grounds look great. I know it's a computer-generated picture, but that being said, it would still look top of the range once it's finished. The only thing I can kind of say about this is that obviously now they're planning to get rid of the car park, George, for that area and have a bit more of an atmosphere, because you've got the club shop there, the warehouse I think will be going near there, and you've got that pub as well that's on that side also. So I just think that's going to be more of an atmosphere, obviously keep in line with the Witten that's a bit further down. So that whole area will become almost that Aston Villa atmosphere as such.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in the last sort of season, I kind of sit around that side. So you can see like week by week, the extra effort that's going in. Every game you go to, there's like another unit being put in, like like the sort of temporary, almost like the old temporary classrooms you've got at school, but they're all pop-up bars and stuff. More and more fans, getting in there, having a pre-match pint. You've got like the bandstand, so you've got a great bit of atmosphere there, especially in the warmer months. And and it obviously looks like that's going to continue when the warehouse is built. That's going to be a massive venue, isn't it? And just hopefully, I guess, just to get more fans in before and after the games and try and build that revenue up and try and make the money. And hopefully, it will help with the traffic on the way home. Not everyone will come and go at the same time, and it just whole modernizing. This is what big clubs do, isn't it? And as classic and as historical as Villa Park is, you've got to keep with the times, haven't you? There's plenty of grounds now bigger than Villa Park, newer than Villa Park, so you've got to do this sort of thing to keep yourselves relevant and just keep the ball rolling.
Well, that's it. It was always the talks of whether you redevelop a stadium or you build a brand new one, potentially in a different area. Obviously, trying to keep in line with the metro lines over in the UK. Now, personally, from my experiences of getting the train to Villa Park, I think it's okay, because I would generally travel straight to the Witten Arms whenever I go over, which essentially just stops right next to it. And I'm only literally, not even a 2-minute walk to the stadium. So I think if for anyone who has experienced that would say it's okay, but at the same time, I could understand maybe the frustration of having to get off the train at Aston, which is then a 10, 15, 20-minute walk to the stadium. And for anyone that may have had different experiences on the train, put it in the comment section here what your experience have been of getting the train to Villa Park, and hopefully in the lines with these new redevelopments and putting in a train line to be closer to Villa Park, because we've seen with plenty of clubs where the trains is literally stopping right next to the stadium. Even here in Ireland, we have our train system that stops right at Lansdowne Road in the Aviva Stadium. So obviously there's that feel factor of just getting off the train and being at the stadium straight away and leaving straight away as well, because by the time you basically leave Villa Park, sometimes fans have left 10, 15 minutes early just to get the train at Aston or the Witten, because the queues will be absolutely mental. So maybe it will probably, I wouldn't say we get rid of the queues as such, but it would add another layer of just that line to stop there. And then if you're seeing people go different places, the queues won't be as mad, George.
Yeah. Like in my experience, getting there is not always the worst. Obviously, you get quite a bit of a queue at New Street to go down to Whitton. It's obviously a busy train and everyone's all going to the same place. But it's the return. It's trying to get back on at Whitton again to get back. There's not enough trains, queues galore. You know, I know luckily for us it doesn't seem to happen much these more. But there was nothing worse than back in the day when you had a good tonkin at home. I remember, God, the year. Do you remember Aguero banged a hat-trick and I think they'd done us like 6-1 or something, Man City.
Yeah.
And I remember I'd got the train that day and like you've come out of the ground and you can see the queues coming out and you're thinking, I could really, really do without this. You know, it was well in need of a bit of an upgrade. And I don't know how long this is all supposed to take, but I'm glad they're getting the ball rolling at last.
Yeah, exactly. And so the comments now at the minute are flying with Nicholas Jackson. Obviously, Kevin Jeans here said he's played on the wing at Villarreal. And he says, as regards to Jackson, he's also said as regards to Jackson, it might be a non-starter. We can't afford a huge fee, so he's not against the loan. Who else here has said, 1 second now. 1 second, here we go. Christos from Greece says, I don't think Jackson is a bad player, but if we have room for a player, he would prefer a right winger. We need something for the right side, which is not a bad thing. But at the same time, though, George, he had a 15-goal involvement for Chelsea last season in all competitions. And if you're adding that to the team, considering Watkins had 24 goals involvements in the league, Rodgers had about 10. There was other players who were chipping in. So if you're adding that 15, if you're expecting that number from Nicholas Jackson, say, who has played under Emery, he's praised Emery even with an interview at Chelsea when he said he made him the player he is. He used to play off the left. And of course, Villa have also come out and said that if they had to go for Jackson, Ollie Watkins still wouldn't be for sale, but they wouldn't be able to buy Jackson then. It'd have to be a loan move, which supposedly a loan move could be in the works, but there would have to be an obligation to buy fee. So what would your take be on Nicholas Jackson coming to the club? Would you take him in, or is it one of them where you just trust Emery whether you like the player or not?
Well, it's felt inevitable since the day Emery come in, really. Jackson's been continually linked with us, hasn't he, before he went to Chelsea. The whole time he's been at Chelsea. You know, you just went back to his history with, was it Villarreal? Sorry, they were together. It feels like Jackson to Villa has always been kind of on the cards. But we're kind of in that position now, aren't we? All right, we've just shipped off Leon Bailey to Roma. I'm not sure what the wage situation is. I can't imagine they'll be paying it all because, you know, everyone knows that the English clubs pay the higher wages and the European clubs can't quite match it. So I'm not an expert on it, but I could imagine we're still having to pay Bailey a fair whack. You know, you've just got Ramsey now has gone, so you've got his wage off. Maybe there is a space. Obviously, it will be a loan, but I think if you're paying top money for loanees, they've got to be starting. I think our days of like paying 100 grand to players to sit on the bench and be second choice, I don't think we're going to be doing that at the moment. I don't think we can be doing it. But Jackson, I do rate. I think he's had a good season. He's busy, productive. All right, he misses a lot of chances. We're going to get as frustrated with him as we do with Watkins. But I've always said it. You miss a lot of chances because you get a lot of chances, you know, and that's credit to the player. Only negative is that he seems to get sent off about every 6th, 7th game, which, you know, is really, really not ideal. So obviously a bit of a hothead, gets a bit frustrated. So Emery would have to, you know, you'd have to try and stop that, wouldn't you? Otherwise you're wasting your time. But yeah, I wouldn't be against it. If Unai likes the player, then, you know, he comes, doesn't he? There's nothing me and you can do about that, and you'd support him. But I just think if there's probably more priorities in him just now, but we'll have to wait and see.
Well, yeah, I think when he was under Emery at Villarreal, I don't think he was getting sent off that much. So maybe Emery has a way of keeping his head cool, that if he's getting frustrated, trying not to take it out on other players. So there is that element too, and I 100% agree with you, is someone that's not ideal if he's going to be completely hot-headed like a John Duran. But that being said, like, he may miss a lot of chances, but he'll also need the service. He's a bit like an Ollie Watkins. He's going to need the service. You know, he's not an Ollie Watkins in the sense of he might drop in for the ball and make that hard work. He's more of that floater poacher, likes to play off the left and make things happen. So that is where I can see he'll probably get a few goals, and yes, to be frustrating with him, but he'll have to get the chances, which I think we're lacking that bit of creativity, which was clear to see on the weekend. So we need something that a little bit different. And maybe Jackson could be that answer. I'm not too sure. But the reason is why we can't afford him is not for the sake of our PSR issues, which obviously is an issue in itself, but his contract is up in 2033 because Chelsea have been using this loophole of having long contracts with these players, so they sell them for that bigger fee and it looks better for their books and everything else. And it's kind of left us in a pickle of, well, we can only really afford to loan them in because we can't exactly pay what it is they're looking for. Because at one point they were looking for £100 million. Now that's dropped down to about 60. So clearly the demand for him wasn't high even before they even said £100 million because there wasn't that many clubs thing. But it was only because he was on such a long contract as such that he was probably demanded at that price, which you could understand because of the amount of years that he's got on his contract. But that being said, if you're a £100 million player, George, you have to be the cream of the crop and the best of the best. But Jackson, for me, he's not that. But at the same time, I think he's a proper footballer under Unai Emery.
Yeah. I mean, from Chelsea's perspective, this is the knock-on effect, isn't it? From doing things the way they've done them, they've obviously found a loophole. But then, unfortunately for them, if a player doesn't work out or they want to shift a player, as you said, they're on massive contracts to start with, and they're on lengthy contracts. So the player's going to be in no rush to get away. And I think you'll just find that people will be hovering around Chelsea and it'll be loan deal. And that, they've got about 6, I think you posted on our group earlier, they've got about 6 or 7 that they need to get out of their squad. And that's what it will be.
Yeah.
It'll just be, everyone will just be queuing up and trying to lowball them on loans. And, but luckily for Chelsea, they seem to do what they want financially, don't they? So it never seems to hurt them. So, from our perspective, if we can get a benefit from it and get the best deal we can, if we was to get Jackson. But yeah, good player, mate. I wouldn't be upset if he did arrive.
Yeah, well, you did mention finances, and just before we kind of go into that, we are on that 5,900 subscribers mark. We are hoping to get to 6K, potentially 10K, hopefully by the end of the year. That would be incredible. And please hit the like button, make a comment if you're watching, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to become a member, it's $1.99 a month. Again, less than a pint of Guinness, which Villa have done, less than a can of Red Bull, and probably less than a can of Coke Zero. All 3 things there now that Aston Villa are clearly involved in. So why not become a member? Hopefully we can start getting a few members prizes going again to get you that reward, that you got that feel-good factor of being a Villa Park Pod family member, not just any member, a family member, and hopefully you get in on some prizes to come. So, George, with the finances now that you've mentioned and everything else, I know on the Chelsea side, but that's going to tie lovely into the Aston Villa here section. Jacob Ramsey now and Leon Bailey both gone. Ramsey, I know it might not be much of a dip because he was on 70k, but he was demanding 120 when he went in for contract talks before he had gone to Newcastle. Bailey was on 120 a week. Then Donker now is gone. He was on just shy of 100 grand a week. And now supposedly Alex Moreno, which I didn't get a picture because it was literally only just put in probably 5-10 minutes ago that it looks like he's going to be going to Tyrone FC, with whether that's a loan or a permanent move, but it would look like a high percentage of his wages will or either be gone from Aston Villa. So clearly the effort to try and get this wage bill down for the SCR to a certain percentage for us to be able to strengthen has clearly given Emery a lot of frustration. He clearly wants to do a lot of strength to the team. He wants to add in the right back. He wants to add in another attacking player. To do these sales, he's got to do them to get them down before he can even strengthen. Now, I can understand why people have been frustrated at the Jacob Ramsey deal. Even Tyrone Mings and John McGinn has even mentioned this and very defendant and vocal of the fact that Ramsey has left. But at the same time, this is clearly a PSR sacrificial lamb once again, George, in the Jacob Ramsey deal. So what is your take on all this that we know we've managed to get the wage bill down? Will this mean that we could be able to strengthen our team before the deadline? or will it just be a case of we can't sign until a certain point of the season?
Well, as for Ramsey, I mean, we discussed it last week. It's disappointing to see him go, and you can see in this week just how popular he is amongst the other players. They all look devastated to see him go. But at the end of the day, this is what football clubs do. We've not really been used to this over the years because we've always struggled to get our players away. But players buy and sell. Teams buy and sell. This is football, mate. If you want to spend money, you need to recoup it. So we wish Ramsey well, and hope he does well at Newcastle. Obviously, not too well, and not to the not anything against us, but good luck. Leon Bailey the same. He's had his moments in a Villa shirt and done great. But as for the rest of it, getting Dendoncker off is massive for us because nothing personal against Dendoncker. He got offered a ridiculously big deal, didn't he? And he signed it. So you can thank Steven Gerrard and Perslow for that one because it never really made great sense at the time, did it? They're the sort of silly deals, the Coutinhos that we've been peddled with for too long. If you're going to be paying the big money for these players, they need to be earning it and they need to be playing because we're not a giant enough club to be able to have players sat there on that sort of money, when they're not contributing. With now what you said about, are we going to be able to spend now? I mean, the key thing to me, and I know I drive you guys mad on our group about it, but we're tied in with UEFA. As far as I've read, we're tied in to committing to reduce our wage bill 10-20%, and that's without anyone coming in. So we've obviously made a start now, haven't we, and started trimming it. But I think fans get it in their head that, oh well, we've sold one, we can buy one. We've sold one, we can buy one. I'm not quite sure that's the position we're in. But, I'd say it's a more positive picture than it was this time last week. And maybe there is room. You say I'm not an expert. I've without knowing all the figures, I've just always had a bit of an eye for this. I've always found I've not gone far wrong in the last couple of years with what I've predicted. So we'll have to wait and see. But the club know what they're doing, don't they? They're all frustrated, but they're doing the best they can. And if there's a way of getting a player or two in, then we'll find it, won't we?
Absolutely, and we've seen obviously Villigani and Monchi being so vocal of the fact, and PSO or even our own owners as well has been very vocal of the fact of, being frustrated at these rules that have been set in place, that not being able to be ambitious, because it's not just Aston Villa that they've suffered with this. Everton have suffered with this. Leicester City has suffered with it. Look at them; they got relegated up and back, and now back down again. Southampton had suffered with it a while ago when the rules came in place. A lot of clubs, West Ham, have suffered with it. There's a lot of clubs that it seems to be that when they're trying to be ambitious and when they want to break that mold of getting into that top bracket, they're then hitting a juggernaut, where how do you get past it? Now, I can understand that the Big Six have bigger revenues and they're going to be able to give player bigger contracts because it's not going to hurt their percentage to wage revenue and all that crack. But in saying that, though, George, it just seems that you see a Man City with 115 charges, alleged 115 charges. You see Man United billions of pounds in debt. You see Chelsea doing a lot of laundering and loopholes, which I know Aston Villa had to exploit, but the Premier League tried to stop that before Aston Villa can get the chance to do it. And thankfully, it wasn't passed. You've then got a Tottenham who tried to tell us that, we don't spend money. To the contrary, yes, they do, because they spent £50 million on a Van der Ven, nearly £40 million on a Guti Romero. You've got, yes, they might have got James Maddison on the free. They paid £60 million on Richarlison. There was a £45 million on a Brennan Johnson. They have spent the money. It's not a case of they haven't. They have spent money, but Levy is just one of them businessmen where it looks like he's not spending, but when it comes near to the deadline, he's splashing out the cash on mediocre players. And look where they've been in the last few years. And if they didn't win the Europa League last year, I would have had them down as a candidate for this year to be relegated. But obviously they improved on the manager, look like they've got some better players in, and all that. But Liverpool might be the only ones you could turn around and say that they're selling all their academy players at big money. But that's because them rules have put that in place for literally a lot of clubs to sell their academy players. And the Premier League, I think, needs to look at in terms of academy, right, what's the value of these players? Why is that player going for £25 million when he hadn't even made a single Premier League appearance, or a £30 million and everything else? And then you look at Arsenal. Arsenal are crap at selling players. Their highest selling player had actually been Oxlade-Chamberlain. years ago when Liverpool bought him for £35 million. And the next expensive after him was Nicholas Anelka in '99. So it goes to show that Arsenal have spent, but not made any returns in their investment. Yes, still have a big revenue and all that. But PSO really need to look at what, not in terms of what the club is spending and revenue. They need to look at transfers as well, right? What have you spent on transfers? What have you received back from your transfer? This all needs to be taken into place. And I put out a tweet on it, George, of, something needs to change. So I'm not talking about, getting rid of PSO altogether and everything like that, but there needs to be a ruling where if you're going to bring PSO and stopping the club from going bankrupt and doing everything, fine, I get it. But I think transfer fees in terms of what you spend and what you get in, I think also need to be taken into account, because if these clubs can keep getting away with these things because of loopholes and everything and they'll exploit them, but then for some reason when other clubs try to do it, there seems to be a bit of a punishment for them and they're being told to sell players. But yet we don't see the exact same thing towards the other big six.
Yeah, no, well said, mate. I fully agree with all of that. I mean, we've been chatting about it sort of on and off this week, haven't we? Yeah, that's completely right. In regards to the only caveat I can have to that is, which is something I said to you before, like the big six, it's a cartel, mate. They call it a cartel because it is a cartel. They've got the six clubs. They're set in stone. They're the ones that earn the money. They're the ones that the worldwide viewers want to watch. And their skies, that's their golden gooses there. And they don't want us. They don't want us in there. They don't want Newcastle in there. They don't want Nottingham Forest in there. As you said before, Everton, West Ham, Leicester, Southampton all had a go. It's not what they want. With us, we've pushed it as hard as we can without, we've just failed the squad cost rule, but we've pushed it literally as far as we could. Initially with the high fees, the Onanas and that have come in for a lot of money. But more importantly, it was the wages. We've maxed out the wages as far as we could go. And the only sort of the catch-22 I was sort of thinking is that there's teams like, you think of the gap between like Villa and Spurs, Villa and Arsenal, Villa and Chelsea. There's a bigger gap there than there is down to the Villa and Everton, the Villa and Leicester, the Villa and West Ham. So I'm just saying from their point of view, they're probably looking at what we've done in the last few years and thinking, well, hold on a minute. We probably earn as much money as Villa. How are they affording Unai Emery's wages? How are they affording 100 grand a week on Tielemans, 100 a week on Kamara, 100 odd a week on Mings, Watkins, Martinez? Do you know what I mean? So at the same time as we're getting pissed off with what the cartel do, we're probably like borderline guilty as well of getting to where we've got. But unfortunately, this is football, and if you don't spend the money, how are you going to compete? And you're just banging on the brick wall, aren't you? You can have a go for a certain amount of time. And I just think after that, they want you to just slowly disappear back. And then the next club has a go, repeat. But eventually you're just going to end up with the same top boys there. And they won't be happy until Man United are back where they should be.
Well, that was something I was going to bring up. And you make an excellent point of, it's that cycle of who's going to have a go next and who's going to come back down. And when I've listed these clubs, a lot of people might think, well, why did you mention Southampton? Well, Southampton in the 13-14 season, when these rules came in first place, were having to go for nearly 3 to 4 years and looked like an exciting team, hoping to push on. But when they got to a certain point, it seemed to end a bit mediocre. Why haven't they, signed someone as, to progress in their European journey, to get to that next level? And at first, I didn't understand it because obviously I wasn't too much in tune with it, because I think a lot of people thought the rules wouldn't be enforced as such because it's Premier League, you never really see it. But then we saw that first glimpse of it. And then you see Southampton selling all their best players. They sell on their Pele, the Tadics, the Lallans, the Manes, the Van Dijks. They were selling absolutely everybody, and they were fleeced to the big cartel clubs. Now, some probably didn't go to the cartel club. Some probably went to Europe. Some either went for their retirement money, which happens to clubs naturally. But then look at them, what happened? They started flowing down the table and got relegated. And unfortunately had to lose our best academy player in James Ward-Prowse. Now I go to Everton, who were historically is a big club. They're one of the founding members of the league, like ourselves. You would think that they should have every right to have a go because they've never been relegated from the top flight division in their history. And all of a sudden, when they hit that block of getting that European football, all of a sudden PSO hit. They got points deduction, a harsh one too at 10 points, and had to appeal it because it would have looked like they'd have got relegated that season had they had kept those deducted points. And it just seemed to be that harsh treatment. And I remember the video of Rich Masterson coming out, it's only Everton and Nottingham Forest, when the judge had asked, well, why haven't we touched the Man City 115 cases? And came out and said, well, they're very delicate cases at the minute because there's so many charges, which I would understand. But then when she asked, right, so we were able to hit Everton and Forest so quickly, he goes, well, it's only them two clubs. That was a complete disrespect and clearly has shown to me that what way they're going to treat clubs. A Forest even got a points deduction. Leicester as well, who were Premier League champions, by the way, which is something that you would expect to see in a fairy tale season, nearly getting relegated one year, going to win the league the next, and then sustained for so long. Yes, they might finish mid-table the next year, which you kind of expected from a club like that because they didn't exactly get bigger players in. But over time they did. They got the Tielemans in, they got the James Maddisons, Vardy was absolutely popping. You know, these players were keeping, and Ndidi as well, who was incredible at the time. You know, these players were getting third, fourth place finishes every single season. Then all of a sudden, when they lost the Kasper Schmeichels, the crucial players to their defence, and I remember when we done the preview show for the table, I had them down to finish 13th because they had so little players and didn't really replace them. And a lot of people here had them 6th, 7th in that area again.
Yeah, I remember this.
You know, now, did I have them down to get relegated? Absolutely not. I thought they were still too good to get relegated, but they got relegated that season. And that just goes to show how much they now have been affected, because when they came back up, they've instantly been back down again, because the depth in the Premier League between the Premier League and the Championship is miles apart from each other, which you would sort of expect, because this has been the plan for the Premier League to break that away from the Championship. But that being said, these clubs have gone for it. As soon as they hit, not even the top of the mountain, George, as soon as they hit the middle of the mountain with that steep incline, it's, well, we're going to go from here. And the Premier League is saying, down. That's exactly what they're saying, George.
Yeah, mate, top quality points there, Mark. I'll tell you, that was brilliant, mate. I fully agree with the whole lot of that. Unfortunately now, Leicester is a prime example. The car has left the showground, the showroom, isn't it, and just zoomed off, mate. You know, a team like that were doing all sorts not so long ago, and now, you know, they're screwed. And this is why we've had 2 points in our recent history. The first being obviously the final year when we finally got promoted. You know, God think what might have happened if we'd have lost that playoff final to Derby. We might still be down in that Championship now. And then secondly, the first year when we've pulled the miracle off by staying up on the last day. Because, you know, everything you've just said about Leicester, that's going to be Villa, isn't it? We've done like 100 million to try and stay up and manage to just about sneak it. But if that had gone the other way, we'd been back down, and, you know, and we'd be another year behind, another 150, 200 million in Premier League payments that we haven't got. So, you know, you just got to thank your lucky stars that things have gone our way in recent years, and, you know, and we are where we are. As annoying as it is, you know, we want to be right up there. Sometimes you've got to be grateful for the progress you have made and think about what might have happened if it hadn't quite gone as it could have.
Yeah, exactly. And now another club at the minute with ourselves is Newcastle, who are trying to break that mold of getting into that, you know, bracket of wanting to be in the top end of the table. You've seen that they were affected by PSR, yes, albeit their transfer fees were quite huge. But that being said, the big six clubs done it. So why couldn't Newcastle do it? Because when you look at how much money their owners have, they're the richest in the league,
richest in the world.
And albeit their revenue, I think, would be high because their stadium's at a 55,000 seater, which is, I would think, the normal number, but the minimum number to get a good, decent revenue in for your club. They've been told they've not been able to spend. Like, why is that? Because it just seems to me that any club is wanting to break into this mold is being pushed back. And in Newcastle case, and I do like Newcastle, I think they're a very good club. They're a big club again, historically. But they've been pushed back just like us. And it seems to be, to me, that the Premier League just wants the other 14 to battle it out in terms of who's going to stay up, who might get another European place, and then let the six be the six. And when you bring up the point is, of Man United wanted to do well in the league. I've always seen the pundits every single
desperate, Mark.
year for them to finish 4th, 3rd, 5th, 6th. And it annoys me so much because it's a complete disrespect to the likes of ourselves, Newcastle, potentially even at Brighton, because they're a very exciting club who play good football. And it's just disregarded by these pundits on Sky that, oh, well, we need Man United back here and this and that. And it's like, why? Because if Man United finish 6th, they'll be going, oh, well, this is a bad season by Man United. You know what I mean? Because they should be in that top 3 back because they're the big club. They won the most titles. And I get all that. And I'm not saying Man United are not a big club, but in terms of playing football, they're not exciting anymore. There's other exciting clubs. Why can't we back the Villas, the Newcastles, the Brightons to break that mold? Like, be that competitive nature. Because I actually love now watching the American channels. They have great analysis of Aston Villa, Newcastle, all the clubs, and are realistic about the club's targets. And it's a joy to watch, because when I'm watching Sky sometimes and I'm seeing Roy Keane sit there and Irishman to Irishman, he waffles shy. He's like, I'm not expecting now Man United to do this and do that. And I'm just literally sitting there going, why? That's all you have to talk about. They only have one singular talking point, George.
Yeah, fully agree again, Mark. You're killing it tonight, mate. You see it, pundits, presenters, the radio, TalkSport, 5 Live. It's as if no one else is allowed anything. No one else is allowed any nice things. As soon as a player starts doing well, you could have, or I'll use us an example. You could have us in 5th place, 4th place, smashing it. Our best player starts doing well. They're desperate to sell him to like a United, to a Spurs who could be 6, 7 places lower. But just because they're bigger clubs, I mean, who gives a shit really whether they're bigger clubs? Every club should be worth their merit on how they're doing at the time. Why can't other clubs join the table, eat from the same table as the big boys? But it just seems it's just something in this country where it has to be the same clubs locked in. And honestly, I think the media's dream would be for the Big Six to beat every single team in that league other than each other, and it just be an absolute a procession for them, and then they can talk about United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City, what a title race. And as you said, the rest of us we're little parts in this billionaire story, and they love it. I think it's pretty boring, to be honest with you, mate.
Yeah, and I just think that, remember when these clubs were trying to break out of the Super League and all that, because supposedly rumour had they were happy with the rules, they want more income. But in my opinion, the Premier League is the Super League. Like, you look at the money these big 6 clubs are throwing around in terms of spending. Yes, are they paying the players high wages? Sometimes they're not, because players are going to look at them clubs. They're the bigger clubs. They're the bigger fish because they have more of a chance of winning stuff with them. And I fully get it. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're not. But at the same time, it's just so annoying to me that this is now, to me, the Super League. Like, this is not the Premier League. This is the Super League of who has the most money to throw around, and allegedly putting the brown envelopes under the table to the Premier League and seeing where it goes. Because even when I say the PSR issues, we've seen clubs, not even just in the Premier League, I've seen clubs in the Championship getting points deductions. I've seen them getting absolutely done left, right, centre. There's probably not even one club anymore. I think there was it Bury gone. I think they've gone with their financial implications. But yeah, I'm going to point it again to Manchester United, billions of pounds in debt. Yes, their revenue was 900 million plus whatever a year. But why can't they pay a chunk of that money off to pay off their debts and clear it? I just don't understand it. Why can't they just turn around and go, well, right, we've got 900 million. Let's put 250 of that into our debts and get rid of it and show the Premier League that we're paying off our debts. Then I wouldn't have an issue. Because I remember the Jim Ratcliffe interview, if you were watching that, George, saying that the club has no money. We've had to make cuts, we've had to do this, and I put in 300 million, and now it's all gone because of the day-to-day operations. That's fair enough. But to do all them cuts and you still spent about 270 million plus on your front three, where's the logic, George? Like, where's the money coming from? Is it coming out of thin air out of Houdini's hat? I don't know, because it just seems to me that these clubs can get away with so much. And then if you're not at the big table, like you say, it'd be like Christmas dinner. There's the adult table. Here's the kid table. The adult table can do what they want, but they're going to keep looking over at the kids table and saying, look, they're doing that, they're doing this, and they're doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the old classic saying, in it, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And I'm not saying we're poor. I'm not saying Newcastle are poor, but the power that them big clubs have, they've got the power to keep us down. And that's why, as soon as Newcastle come along, you can guarantee all them other owners are all in a meeting, all like, how can we stop this? How can we, you can't have this coming. Newcastle are going to dominate. Let's get together and let's shut them out. And this is what happens, isn't it? And hence why don't get me wrong, it's been exciting the last few years. We've had a little go, haven't we? We've got in there, and Newcastle now have been in there twice, but that's obviously only because we've got now an extra Champions League place. But yeah, I just find it's protect the big boys at all costs, and it's just pretty frustrating, mate. Yeah, you better get some comments, mate. We haven't. We're just talking between ourselves, haven't we?
Yeah, no, I've been looking at the comments. In fairness, a lot of them have really just spoken about the wages being cut down. It's only recently now coming into the PSR issues. I mean, Saya here has put in that Liverpool spent £300 million so far.
They have, but they've also bought in like 200 million. People forget that. They've done some really good business.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, a lot of people here are actually kind of looking at the dead wood and wages being chopped down. I mean, I have to say, Gary's dad jokes really do take the notch, but he has put in a good comment here. How and Emery have navigated PSR basically without spending billions like the top six numpties have, which just goes to show the quality of managers that both clubs have. And then James Wood here, considering we were talking about the media push that they are the big six, but they brought their way to the top, and Spuds are just Spuds. Exactly. And with the wages, George, Keenan and us, I think we reduced our wage bill obviously below 75% now. I think it's in the 80s, because I remember when we had got rid of a player, Jacob Tandwell said it's in the low 80s, so it could probably be there now, considering Dendonker's gone. It looks like Moreno's going, so it's probably in and around that area. So it looks like we are making that effort.
But don't forget, who did we just give a new deal to the other day? Someone's just had a new deal, haven't they?
Kamara got a new deal.
Kamara's got a new deal, but then at the same time,
we reduced got a new deal.
Yeah,
I think Tyrone Mings got a new deal with a pay cut as well. So a lot of players got new deals with pay cuts. Kamara was probably the only relatively increase, I'd say. And it looks like Morgan Rogers is going to get offered a new deal when the transfer window is finished. So I'd imagine that's going to be a bump up.
It's a shame, it's a shame, Mark, that we have to talk about this, because it's not football anymore, is it? We are like trainee accountants now, but you have to talk about it, because this is what's what's the word? This is what's dictating what clubs do and how they get on nowadays, isn't it? So you're constantly talking about it.
Yeah, and Kevin here has just pointed it out to myself that we've met the UEFA rules already on wages. So that's obviously a good thing to hear, and probably a good thing for you, George, because you should be Aston Villa's accountant.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure that's right, to be fair, mate. I mean, we've got into a squad. We were into a squad costing, aren't we? An arrangement where we.
He said here the 10%. Yeah, he said here the 10%. Yeah, that's complete. So obviously there's efforts in each season the way we do it. So obviously he's more tuned than I am. So fair play, because I'm surprised George isn't, again, him being our accountant for these matters. But it looks like if that's going to be the case, then maybe some players in the door to strengthen. But in saying that, though, and talk about trying to get players in the door and this little rumour to come away from PSR, because I know we kind of babbled on, but it seems like there's a little rumour Marco Asensio returning. And rumour has it he's agreed a 3-year deal. Now, again, this ties in well with the wage issue here, George, and in terms of trying to get it down. If Asensio is to join us, he's going to have to take a pay cut, because realistically, it's not a case of Aston Villa couldn't afford his wages. We just can't afford to put ourselves in a position where we lose European football because of the wage to revenue ratio.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't know what's happened there with Asensio, because I thought it was nailed on that he was going out to Turkey, wasn't he? I think it was Fenerbahce, and I thought that was done from what I'd read. But
I think if he was agreed, I think if he was agreed with the clubs, but I haven't heard personal terms being agreed with Galatasaray. So maybe that just went out the window. I think this is going to be one of them where it's going to be a deadline day move, where he's got this deal. I think it's going to be a 2-year loan, and probably paying a certain percentage of his wages to keep us on that low bracket. I won't really know. See, there's pros and cons to this, George, I think, because the pros is this. He knows Emery's system. He wants something to play for. It's a World Cup year. He wants to get that last World Cup for himself. He got himself 8 goals and 1 assist in the time he's been here. So if you were looking at that, you would say, get him in the door. Yeah, get him. Not necessarily throwing the money at him, but he's going to have to take that pay cut. And this is where the con comes in. He's going to have to take a pay cut. He kind of not fell out of favour, but fell out of form for the goals that he was getting. And he's at that age now where he's not going to want to get high wages and just sit on the bench, which in a way is a good thing. But at the same time, like you pointed out earlier, we can't be having players on big contracts and sitting there and not contributing as much.
Yeah, I mean, and the more important thing is you got to look at Leon Bailey. There's a reason no one's bought Leon Bailey. You know, Asensio, he did well, but he's at 30 years old now. The last thing, in my opinion, you want to be doing is putting him on a 3-year deal and buying him permanently. We're in a position of strength here because he's still there. He's not getting a game there. He's out of contention. They're looking to remove him. Just go in with another year's loan like we've just had. You know, you just take him on a loan, and then if it works, maybe extend the loan. And I think he must be running his contract down. He's PSG, isn't he? Yeah, he's PSG, isn't he? Yeah, I think just keep loaning him until it doesn't suit us anymore. But you don't want to be doing. We should have learnt our lesson. We've just had Coutinho, haven't we? Who was great on a loan spell, and then as soon as we signed the deal, you know, his body broke down on him and he couldn't handle it anymore, and we were then stuck with 3 years worth of wages and loaning him out and trying to get bits of money back. So for me, I'd be looking, if you want Asensio, just try and do the loan and wait until the last minute if you have to. You know, if we're the only club in for him, then it should really be on our terms, shouldn't it?
Well, absolutely, and I fully agree. But I don't think now he's at that age. I don't think he's a starter anymore. I think he's that impact player, because when you see him, when he was coming off the bench for us, the impact he was making, that quality, that fresh legs, that, you know, he's got that experience. Because even when he was at Real Madrid and PSG, he's been an impact player pretty much for most of his career, even though he's got real quality to be a starter. But for whatever reason, I don't know whether it's a manager thing, but for whatever reason, whatever system he goes to, it seems to be he's better as that impact player as opposed to a starter. Now, I know what you could turn around and say, well, if he's at Real Madrid, he should be starting everywhere else. But that's not the case. Football has evolved and changed since he's been at Real Madrid. Because when he was at Real Madrid, he was a sole 10, and they were players that didn't have to do with much pressing. It was kind of like you had to press with 10, the free roll, he looked great, and everything else. But now football has progressed to the stage where a 10 is not necessarily that free roll as such. Yeah, they still have it when we're on the ball, but when we're off the ball, they have to press, they have to be in shape. You can't lose that. Asensio's not that type of player. He's that luxury number 10 that's kind of a dying breed as such, George. You know what I mean? And I just feel that if he was to come, he's going to be an impact player, but he needs a winger that he needs to connect with, because when he was with Marcus Rashford, them two linked up really well. So he's going to need a player where he's going to link up really well with and get goals and chip in with assists too.
Yeah, very true, mate. It is true. Yeah, you know, he did start very well, didn't he, in the Villa shirt straight away, scoring goals, assists, and it was great. Him and Rashford linked up, like you said, nice. And then it kind of just sort of faded away. I mean, the game where he missed the 2 penalties, I think that was a right kick in the bollocks for him, and he didn't really recover too well from that. And that was kind of the end of like what he did for us, really, wasn't it? But we know he's a good player, and you know that Emery's in love with him. And I just wonder, in the Europa League, that might be where he could shine there. You know, you're playing not rubbish teams by any means, but probably a drop off to like half the Premier League. So a player like Asensio is going to stand out a lot more in games like that, where you need to open the lock. You have a lot of the ball, teams sitting back, low block and all that. So a player like Asensio in the Europa League, I could see being maybe more important than it would be in the Premier League.
Yeah, and Gary, 30 is the new 40. Like saying orange is the new black. But yeah, I fully agree with what you're saying, and it's a frustrating thing for him, you know, because he is a good player and he has plenty of experience. And obviously, if we're going to be competing in these competitions, there will be opportunities to start in Europa League. I think you're spot on the nail here. That I think would be perfect for him. So we'll just have to wait and see. One player we haven't spoke about, George, is Leon Bailey. I know he's in the exact same picture here as Jacob Ramsey. Forgive me, folks, this was last minute. Completely forgot about it, but he's there nonetheless. Now, he's going to Roma. It's a loan with an option to buy, and Roma is covering the full 120 grand a week. What do we think of this one now, George? Because my perception of it is that I don't like this option because Italian clubs are very good at getting loans and making clubs go with the option to buy at a fee that you would think is a bit more than what the player is valued at, and then don't take up the option. They're very good at it. So you kind of have to narrow them down to get an obligation in a way, and then never take up the option, and then you're stuck. Now, we had bought Bailey, I think, for £30 million, if I have it correct, and obviously the amortised fees would have brought it down to whatever value that he's got left. So we got €2 to €3 million in terms of the loan fee, with the option of a €22 million permanent buy. That brings us up to potentially a €25 million. So you haven't lost money as such. You've made a bit, but at the same time, it's a gamble because Italian clubs, in my opinion, never take up the option unless they have a world-beating season, and then they think, oh, now all of a sudden this price is really cheap. Let's pay it. So do I think Roma's a good move for Bailey? I do. I think the Italian league is it's not a slower pace as such, but compared to the Premier League it is. I think he'll flourish. I think he'll do really well there, George.
Yeah, it just seems football seems to be changing now. I mean, I just saw a comment there. A player gets to about 28 now, 29, and no one's ever buying them anymore, are they? Everyone's looking out for buying younger players. And when they get stuck at this sort of age, 28, 29, 30, this is what you're getting now. You're getting loan deals, aren't you? Like, as you say, with options to buy. They probably won't buy him. Roma, they'll probably milk it. And, and then it'll be the next year, we might loan him again, go right to the end of the window, and it's another one. This is where, it's a shame the Saudis didn't come in because we all thought the Saudis were going to buy Bailey, didn't we, in the summer? That was like as good as done. We were all made to believe. But obviously that didn't happen. So there goes your 25 million, 20 million we thought we were going to get. I mean, yeah, for the money we've paid for Bailey, 30 million, we've had him, 4 or 5 years. Probably only really the one great season he had was the, and that was the year we got to the Champions League, and he was a huge part of that. So you could argue that just on that one season, he was worth the fee. But, other than that, he's flattered to the sea throughout. He's a good player there. We all know that. But he's just one of those tricky wingers that's a bit frustrating, and he has his days and he has his really has some off days as well. And you wish him well going to Roma, but it just feels at the age he's at and the time he's been at the club, it would have been better if someone had come in and bought him. But that's not up to us, is it? That's for another club to do. So I guess you can only do the business that's been offered to you.
Yeah, exactly. And clearly when we all thought the Saudi was coming in and, their Formula One club was going to come in for them, I thought they were going to take the buy on that option. I know the dad joke kind of came out with me there, but I couldn't let that one pass. So if anyone got the cringes or the shivers after that one, don't care less. Enjoy it with all its pleasure. But yeah, you would think that when they came in for 25 million, you would have said, yeah, just take it, leave it, run with it. Happy days, wages gone, money in the door. Where with the loan, although you have got rid of the wages, this player is still technically yours, and it comes back to you again next season if they don't take up that option. So you're back to square one again.
I just wonder, Mark, I wonder what the interest in Bailey was after that Champions League season when he was hot and he played really well. I can imagine we must have turned away a bit of interest. And I just wonder whether that was the time. After like sort of 2-3 failed seasons and one where he's hit big, maybe then we should be thinking, Bailey's probably hit his peak here, and maybe it probably wouldn't have been popular at the time, but that was the chance to make your money if you were going to. But then I guess you don't know he's going to flop again the season after, do you? So is what it is.
Well, look, to get an answer probably to your question from Christos is I get players are out of form sometimes, but honestly, watching Bailey last season, he looked like he forgot how to play football. It was shocking. Now, what I think it is, and this is one thing I have said before on this channel, I think Bailey got complacent.
No deal on that, yeah.
Because, when Diaby was there, he had to be on his toes because he thought he was going to take his place. Like, I have to perform here to keep my place. And he did look unplayable. He was incredible, chipping in with the goals. He was skillful, barely even injured. But then when he left, there was no one to compete with him, was there? So it was almost like he was just a guarantee for his name on the team sheet. Oh, it doesn't matter how bad if I do this week or that week, I'm still playing.
It's crap
It was
attitude, though, isn't it? If that's what he was thinking, I don't really like that.
It's a horrible attitude, and when you're a professional footballer earning again 120 grand a week, and you're just strolling around doing whatever, mate. I'm an electrician who could only dream of earning what he earns. I'd be up and down that pitch, no problem. I'd be sweating coming off that pitch, hard working. Probably wouldn't even score a hat trick or even a goal, but at least I would have worked hard to keep my place in the team and say, yeah, I'm worth the money. But clearly, he's at that point. At that time, says, whatever. It's again, I understand it's their day jobs and all that, but if you're getting that much money and the fans are paying to see you play, you need to perform, George.
Yeah, it just feels when players get that new contract, isn't it? The old feet just seem to go up. This is my fear for Man United this year. Not that I'm fearful for them. I couldn't give a shit what happens. But the Mbuemos, Cunha's and that, Sesko's, they've all come into Man United. They've all just had a massive pay rise, all three of them. And this is what happens. You should use that as a platform to go on and for greatness. But I think they just think, oh, this is nice. Jesus Christ. I've just not, my pay's just gone up like, 5, 6 times what it was. Happy days. And as you say, that complacency comes in. They've hit their destination, haven't they? And, you look at Højlund and players like that they've paid all the money for, and they've not been able to produce at Man United, or they just can't be asked. It looks like there's been an attitude problem there for years. Marcus Rashford, when he was there, kept throwing money at him, didn't they? And he's got worse and worse. So, yeah, I don't know. I just think these players, the attitude, sometimes they could be they're a little bit less to be what desired, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, 100% agree. And that probably should just about wrap it up for us. Remember, folks, we are on that 5,900 mark. I know that says 5,800. And if you can't see that, Specsavers is the one for you. They'll be great for you. But clearly, we're on that road to 6K, 10,000 hopefully potentially at the end of the year, which would be a great number for this channel. And again, if you want to become a member, $1.99 a month. Again, the cost of less than a Guinness, less than a Red Bull, less than a can of Coke Zero. Get yourselves involved in the channel. And like Rich would say, we always follow the Villa. It's long.